You're listening to Brandon Boost. Brandon Boost. Brandon Boost. Brandon Boost.
Well, hopefully this goes well because it is episode 13. Luckily, we didn't do it on Friday the 13th.
I was going to say that.
I know we're going off topic already, but I saw it was also in the news that if you have a house with number 13, that your property value is like 10% less.
Really?
Because people
Just
don't want
because
number
it's
13.
13?
Yeah, I'm in my house number, but I won't give out my full number in case Leah puts it online. Cool. Well, welcome to episode 13, lucky number 13, which is all about branding and trying to get an edge around the creativity. And we're with TPSquared and Carolyn Smith. So we will chat about branding and a bit about your business and maybe some nuggets of information.
Fab.
And maybe some people can get some tips and ideas just before. Well, are we in Q4?
Yes.
We're in Q4,
Yes,
okay.
We are.
If you're near the Midlands, German market's about to start in about 2 weeks, so I guess that shows that. Cool. So do you want to just discuss a bit about your background and about TPSquared and why you do what you do? And
Yeah,
go from
sure.
there,
So TPSquared, we are design-led marketeers. So we build brands, bringing business stories to life with creative advertising and marketing. So we've been going for 5 years now. So I'll just give you our X Factor backstory.
Sure.
So in July 2019, the agency that I was working at rocked up to work as usual, as did the rest of the team of 15, and administrators were on the doorstep.
Okay.
So put my big girl pants on, registered a company, and just said to the team, look, let's jump on the phones. We're the ones that have built the relationships. Let's see how many clients we can get to move forward, set up a company. And yeah, here we are 5 years forward with TPSquared.
And how has it been over that 5 years? How has the business evolved? Is it the same as when you did it 5 years ago, that business then, or is it different?
No, very different. So we have found a really collaborative approach. So using our skills and experience from working with lots of kind of global brands, and now working with still kind of business to business SMEs locally, and nationally still, and still globally. We've still got some of those clients as well. Yeah.
Going all the way back, just to put it out there, because I think people get confused between marketing and advertising and then branding specifically and other bits and pieces. What is branding and what is the importance of getting it right? Because I think if I think about branding, a lot of the time I think of Coca-Cola, something like that, who have like huge brands and they don't really have to advertise that much. They just stick a logo up, which doesn't work for most people because people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a bit of a, what is branding? Why is it important? And I guess then, why do people then come to design agencies like yourself?
So we believe anyone can build a brand, and you're right, it is different though, depending on where you are in the marketplace, who you're selling to. But stripping it back to basics, it's just about getting your messaging right. So you're right, how you look and your messaging, making sure that it's tailored to the customers that you want to get. I think that brands that do it well are ones that are very authentic. Yeah. And I think simple as well. Don't overcomplicate how you look or your messaging. I think that can be difficult as well, especially as a business owner. Maybe you're great at doing what you do, but actually putting it into a visual or putting it into messaging can sometimes be tricky. So if you can work with an agency or a specialist, then it can help.
And do you think people maybe spend too long on, like, I'm trying to think about ourselves. So when, like, I could be a perfectionist. I guess most people are with their businesses. They have a very particular way of doing it. Yeah. And you could spend like years designing your logo and not actually launching the business. It probably doesn't really work either. But why would a business choose to maybe work with a design agency? And I guess the benefits of that. Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think most people are perfectionists, and you want it to be 100%. But getting it 70, 80% definitely, because then once you've launched, you can see how things work, trial and test things, make some tweaks. And brands are always evolving. You can have, you might change your lane a little bit, you might go to a different market or sector, you might add a new service, so that then your brand changes as well, because you're talking to different people. So I don't think, so as a brand, you are always changing. So if you're striving for that 100%, that perfection, it might never come.
Yeah, and I guess so you think about even the biggest brands, they're constantly evolving what they're
Yeah.
doing. They're not the same as they were
No.
10, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, and the world changes as well, so sometimes you have to change a brand because of what's going
Yeah.
on around you.
What areas do you think are the most important that brands get right, businesses get right? Because, again, you could go on these online brand building things and they'll do you cups and everything, you know, probably don't need to brand most things. But what are the key areas that I guess you've got to get right, got to get your message, like, not perfect, but as good as?
Yeah, so I think, so stripping it back to basics, a really strong identity and consistency. So once you have gone with something, yes, you can trial and tweak and change things, but don't be changing your logo every 6 months because you're not going to build that trust and confidence with your target audience. But having a good, strong identity, keeping the name of your business really simple, really easy to remember, and then really succinctly being able to tell people what it is you do. You want people to get it immediately. I think the stat is, I think it's like a fifth of a second it takes to form a first impression.
Okay.
So you want to get it as close to right first time, so that like we're quite judgy as people.
Yeah.
They say don't judge a book by a cover, but we do.
Yeah,
So it's quite important to get that look, that feeling over as soon as possible. So it's quite important.
Well, I can't remember again what the stats are, but one of those things about how many advertising messages you're exposed to in a day, you know, it's like thousands.
Crazy.
So, yeah, if you're thinking you are one of those things, or I guess if you say you're going to like a networking event, and I have been to a few where someone says what they do, and you're sort of looking in the eye going, I don't know what it is you actually do.
Blah,
Like, I just,
blah.
I can't work it out. Like, and, you know, you end up thinking about that.
As I said, keeping it simple is the best thing. You know, you don't need to use lots of industry jargon. Just keeping it super simple.
And how would you work out with these clients, you know, what I guess their values are? How do you start to build up a picture of what their brand should be?
Yeah, so we have a super collaborative approach. So finding out the thoughts of everyone from top to bottom in the organisation. So you've got maybe your board or your senior management team, and then you've got all your employees, even your suppliers and your customers. It's great to get their thoughts and feelings, because what you might think at the top of the tree might be very different to what's happening down below. So that's brilliant. So then you can really kind of build all your values, your ethos, what you stand for, and then you can filter all that into your brand so that everything is consistent.
And what kind of sectors do you work with? Does it, you know, match, or is it a complete range?
No, we do. We work with a broad range of different sectors, businesses of all shapes and sizes. So we work a lot with financial services, construction, logistics, education, charity. But as I say, because we've got that super collaborative approach, going through those steps, it can be anybody, primarily business to business. But yeah, it can work with anybody.
Nice. Why would a business use a branding agency, I guess, rather than doing it themselves? And specifically, why would you use yourself? That can be your shameless plug at that point.
I know, yeah, thanks. So yeah, as I say, I think there's a team of 4. So in Womborne, it's 100% female or female. Okay. So I think combined we've got over 100 years of experience. We've worked with some of the big boy brands down to, you know, smaller level independents. So I think that experience of working with all those different shapes and sizes of clients has given us that kind of toolkit to know how to work with anybody. Yeah. And the designers in the team are just fantastic. They're super talented, and we just love what we do.
Well, that's good. Where do you get your clients from? How do people, you know, find you, I guess?
So we do a lot of face-to-face networking. We do a lot of social media. We do direct mail campaigns, and that a lot of referrals as well, which is perfect. I think if any business can work on referrals, that's like the gold dust, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely. And working on getting referrals, I think, isn't it? Like, it's perfect if a client just says, "Oh, this company's amazing," but I guess there's some work to be done on trying to provoke and prompt them to give referrals.
Yeah, and actually that's one of our values, is about building relationships. Okay. So we like to work with our clients, like some of them we've because they came from the previous business. We've worked with them for like 15, 20 years. So we're very much into building relationships, not just one-off transactions.
And how do you stay on top of everything that's going on in the marketing world? You know, your digital, well, everything's changing all the time, I guess. So how do you stay on top of that?
Yeah, it is always changing. I think the buzz at the moment is AI and how that is going to change the landscape, either for copywriting or using it in even like the Adobe software. They've got the AI in there as well. So we tend to use a lot of industry professionals' advice, so staying on top of Adobe. They give brilliant tutorials and information. In creative world, you've got Behance, you've got the Drum. There's different creative kind of publications out there. So very much just lots of reading, staying on top of the trends, because they're always changing. I can remember when like the internet came out, you know, it's mad to think how much has changed, and then you've got all these different types of routes to market. It's changed so much.
I remember, I mean, they probably still exist, but you know, they had the internet for dummies and all those kind of like actual textbooks on how to use the internet. I can't imagine the kids picking up a textbook now on how to learn how to do something. And it'd be out of date within 2 weeks probably. Yeah, I remember going through the Behance website, however you say it, and just like, oh, I want a website like that. I want my logos like that. Spending too many hours on that.
But it's really good though, because that's a great way to do research, because you can look at competitors, you can see how people are doing it, and even if that's to form an opinion of, well, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to look like that, or I don't want to say that. There's some brilliant publications and resources out there for you to do your own research.
Yeah, definitely. I think another interesting one for sort of e-commerce brands in particular I've seen is when you go to like maybe not a trade show, but you know, like a craft show and things like that. And again, you see the branding in lots of different ways. I guess it's a good way to expose yourself to that brand, be it like their labelling or their little flyers, their banner on the top. Like I say, you get a flavour whether you like it or not. Quite a lot of the time you're going, not really into that. But it allows you to
because there's so many options, isn't there? And just going back to what you were saying about why would you use an agency, sometimes it's good to have that second opinion. Like if you haven't got it within your business or your organisation, a lot of our clients will say, oh, I've heard of this or I've heard of that, and it's like, yeah, that's great, but how does that fit in with your business or, you know, the audience you're trying to target?
And I guess the element of doing kind of one or two things at once, not I want to be everywhere all at once, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, having a plan and deciding, right, what do we need to do now, and then at what point should we look at other things, definitely. Yeah.
And if you were just giving advice to a business, where would you think they start? So, you know, maybe the business is already existing, you know, it's been around a year or two, the owner's thinking about a bit of a refresh, maybe, like you say, their business has evolved, it's not quite what they started out as. Where would either as agency clients or, you know, just as a friendly advice, if you were saying to them, I want to just rethink it a bit, make sure my messaging's on point, make sure it all looks good, how would you kind of go about that?
Yeah, so we firmly believe that you should listen to the people within your organisation, because again, sometimes a manager, an owner, business owner, you can think something and actually your staff or your customers or your clients or clients might be telling you something else. I think sometimes as business owners you get a bit itchy feet, don't you? And it's like, oh, is it time to do a rebrand, or where can we find the next client or services? And sometimes it is the right decision, sometimes it isn't. But yeah, I think using research, questionnaires, you know, survey what other people think is a great start point. And you can use things like, what's it called? Pollfish.
Okay.
So what you can survey just the general public. They're really good insights to help you form opinion. So you can put out surveys to the internet, to the world, and say, you know, what do you think of my strapline? What do you think of my logo? You know, do you understand from looking at my logo what my company does? So there's lots of different resources out there that you can use. If you're not going to use an agency, there's lots of different tools out there that are really useful.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point, let's say, about getting that research and making sure that people actually understand what it is you do. Do you see businesses where their brand is not really aligned to what they do? And I guess it comes back to this, what you just said about, you know, if you ask somebody off the street just to look at your logo, look at, you know, a front cover of a brochure, are they going to get what you do? Because I'm guessing if they don't, it's just going to limit your sales predominantly, because people aren't even going to know what it is.
Yeah, oh, definitely. If people don't understand or get what you do, you've only got that, sometimes you've got that one chance, especially like in a networking situation. You were just saying before, like if you've switched off, that's it. You know, there could be some collaboration there, or there could be some opportunity. But if you've overcomplicated it, or it's hard to understand, then you've lost that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And so after they've kind of done their research and things, is there like any quick wins you think people can do? You know, if they were just to give it a bit of a zhuzh before
Zhuzh, designers hate that.
Yeah?
Just zhuzh it
No,
for
no
me.
zhuzhing.
No, I think there's lots of things you can do.
Or is it that there are no shortcuts really?
Do you know what? It's a really interesting one. So you can do things quickly, you can learn fast, you can learn from your mistakes. Sometimes doing things quickly and it failing can actually be helpful. And then there's the opposite end of the scale where you take too long and you procrastinate and you don't get things done. So there is the in-between. But yeah, I think we use a lot of colour psychology in what we do. Okay. So you can look online and find out what colours will create certain emotions. So like you'll see red a lot in sales. So the big sales stickers, 50% off, they're all red and white. Or on coming back to e-commerce on websites, sometimes that button to buy is red, or because red just triggers urgency. So sometimes colour theory, sprinkling some of that in, that could be a quickish one. Yeah,
but then I guess you've got to be careful if you go for the wrong colour.
Yes.
And in terms of like branding and things where it's, I guess, sort of more of the soft side of marketing, in theory, kind of slower burn sometimes. How do you monitor and sort of report on the success of that brand? Because if you do an advertising campaign or a big marketing campaign, you can kind of say, I want 100 clients and this is what I get from it. How do you to your clients, and how do they expect you to sort of see whether it's successful?
Yeah, so you've got a lot of the old school things that just work. So you can put codes on stuff, so you can then tell how many people have used that code, so you can then gauge and quantify how well it's worked. You've also got the softer stuff that you can take into consideration. You know, have I had more emails, views on my website, more followers on social, more phone calls? Different for every business, isn't it? But you've got, again, opposite end of the scales. You've got a lot of data-driven things, tools that you can use, but then you've got the softer side of things that you can kind of look at. And you know, sometimes businesses, you'll go, oh my God, we've had an influx of sales or phone calls, where's it come from? And then you can see what you've done and kind of be able to pin down what it was that worked.
Yeah, I think one of the top tips I was always told about that is just make sure you're asking people where they came from.
Yeah.
Because so often you kind of get into the moment, don't you? And you've got a great new client and you're just chatting to them, and then 6 months later you go, well, where did they even come from?
Yeah.
And then you've no idea.
Yeah.
And usually
just
it's
ask,
just say, where did you come from? Where might a brand put their brand, I guess? So in terms of all these businesses you've seen, like I've seen on your portfolio and things, you know, some great logos, some great designs and things. What are the most common things, I guess, that they're making you build out and design? And is there anywhere different or innovative that people could start to put their logo in? You know, we have like our strategically placed mugs and things, but I mean that's like a Vistaprint special. So I'm not claiming anything special for that.
The sponsorships and partnerships, I think they're seeing great results for businesses. So again, coming back to your values as who you are, having a think about who you can partner with or sponsor that backs up those values is a great way. You know, you can sponsor a local footy team, or I don't know if you are. So for us, so we're female in Wombourne, so we do a lot with the Haven Wolverhampton. So that kind of reflects on our values and who we are, raising up other women, supporting women. Yeah, so there's lots of things, and that doesn't always necessarily have to involve money. Yeah. obviously, if it's a charitable organisation, they love money because they need that to survive and keep doing their great work. But sometimes it can be, you know, donating time or, you know, simply sharing on social media or talking about them in your newsletters, just raises their profile and helps and supports them. So again, you've got lots of different things. You can throw a load of money at something, or there's a lot of softer things that you can do. But yeah, I think collaborating with other organisations that fit really well with your business, that's a great way to get your brand out there. I think in the past people have always viewed that as, oh, they're using charity or they're using, like, look at them shouting about it. But actually, it's especially in the tough economic times at the moment, charities or local community groups, they need that support from businesses. 100%. So you can do some really nice stuff, and that does help get your business name out there, your brand out there, but you're doing something really good for potentially local community. So they're really nice avenues to go down.
I think, like I say, as long as it's true to your values and you're getting something out of it, be it as in not so much the branding side, but, you know, your team are getting involved in things. And rewarding both ways, isn't it? And I think that is really nice, and it's good to be just doing things within your community in particular rather than the national ones. And I think
as consumers, we're really savvy now. I think you can see through when
100%.
People are doing it for the wrong reasons. You know, when like like all of a sudden they've started to care about something they've never spoke about, or you can tell when it's not true and honest.
Yeah. Well, Leah and I are looking forward to doing our half marathon for Acorns, another worthy local charity.
Brilliant. What made you do that?
What, the marathon or helping Acorns? Well, I mean, Acorns is obviously just a really good charity locally and doing a whole heap of good work looking after some very poor children, and just doing that in the most sort of admirable way. And then, we've looked at different ways we can help them, and one of the things they're doing is the half marathon in London next year. So we are excited and nervous at the same time to do that. Absolutely love, like, aiming to sponsor, and we're certainly welcome any sponsorship. I'm sure there'll be a link somewhere in the podcast or the video that Leah can add in.
We'll have to jump on that.
Here or here. Maybe I'll do a vlog while I'm running. Clearly not in the best shape right now, but I've got like
so do that.
I've got like 4 or 5 months easy. Maybe I'll get somebody on who's like shows how to train on a marathon thing, but yeah, so that kind of thing. But it's interesting being able to help them in different ways, which is nice. So we've got different avenues, and one of the things that we've got is just lots of stuff going out to people every single day, so it's quite a nice way to be able to get their message out.
Yeah, exactly.
And a little bit of running's probably not going to harm anyone, hopefully. And we want to do more of that in future.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, sponsorship, partnerships, things I think is a really good idea.
Yeah.
And like I say, as long as it's true to your value and things, I think it's great.
Yeah.
So just the rewarding part with your team alone is
well, that's the thing. You're getting your brand out there. You're showing what your values are, who you are as gives you a bit of a face, a bit of a personality. But also, if you're getting team members involved, it's quite good for morale as well, and helping your team feel more connected to your business, to your brand as well. So for employee engagement, collaborations and partnerships are brilliant.
Yeah, and I think those kind of organisations work best, as well as the smaller ones. Otherwise, you can end up with, do you want to sponsor this, do you want to sponsor that? And before you know it, you've spent thousands, and maybe you've got a little something. No offence to the people who run the roundabouts, but there's like, you get the adverts on the roundabout, and they're so expensive. They're like a tiny little plaque.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd be interested to see how well they do for people.
Yeah.
But I think, but that's the thing, it all depends on your budgets as well, doesn't it? If you've got a huge budget, then why not put your brand in wherever you can to always have it in people's minds, you know.
I did have a few, because there was a few where you get, again, it's usually if you've got a slightly bigger budget, but if you're trying to target maybe a particular competitor's customers, and you sometimes see it, I mean, you get it a lot with, say, the McDonald's and the car dealers, that kind of thing, where they will take out a billboard right next to the other customer's thing. Sometimes I think it works best when they're a little bit cheeky in the message, because they know they're being a bit sneaky. But maybe that's when things like those roundabout advertising work. But and I think they're generally run by the council, so maybe they need the money. But Yeah, I always wonder,
It's
like,
true.
maybe they
Yeah.
do work. One of our best advertising things is just a big sign on the side of the building, on the
Yeah.
side of the motorway.
Yeah,
We've had, quite a few customers through that. So if you've got a building, stick a sign on it.
yeah. That's
Um,
a lot of those things. You think, oh, just stick a sign up.
Yeah,
Tick them off the list.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
of the basics things. You're right.
Yeah.
We didn't have signage on our building for many years, and then we put these lovely big graphics in the window, and everyone's like, oh my god, I nearly crashed my car looking at your signage. And it's like, it does help you stand out, lets people know who you are and where you are. It's great advertising.
How do you find it with that, the direct mail? Because obviously back in the day, everyone used to get direct mail, and there was tons of it. And now I think there's a lot less direct mail.
Yeah.
So do you find that there's now sort of more of an opportunity in that because there is just less rubbish coming through people's letters?
Yeah, something we've noticed since the pandemic, there's buying habits have changed. So I think there was a lot when in lockdown, and since about shop local, buy local, support crafts, support all these different types of people. And I think people are a bit different in how they consume advertising now, and people do tend to pick up a paper and read a paper. Tactile stuff does work, so obviously trends happen a lot, so it might, nobody wants to be flooded with lots of marketing materials, but there's lots of cool things that you can do. Again, if you've got something that's really attention grabbing, a bit quirky, then they can work.
I do remember one of the businesses I worked with, we sent out some direct letters to potential buyers who get loads of mail, and it was the thing that you had to put it in like a red envelope. It had to be handwritten,
Yeah,
and then ideally we used a wax stamp
yeah,
because they were like they would have to open it just
yeah.
because
Intrigued.
curiosity and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
So yeah, and I've certainly seen that some of the more traditional ways of, because you're just swamped with online all the time, isn't it? And
Yeah,
I sometimes do get these ads now where all these like surveys that pop up for an ad that says, have you seen an ad for this brand? And they're like big brands. I'm like, I have no idea. I just can't remember.
No.
So if I did, I don't know.
yeah.
So yeah, I like traditional branding
Yeah.
as much as all the new stuff. How have you guys got involved in all the social media? How do you find all of that? Do you have a favourite platform?
So we again, being business to business, LinkedIn works really well for us.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, if you're maybe more like e-commerce, then do a dancing TikTok. If that's going to reach your customers, then do
Yeah.
it. But for us, business to business, LinkedIn really works. We've found clients through it. Again, just by putting out messages about who we are, what we do, our sponsorships, our partnerships. People kind of go, oh, I like what they're doing, like what they stand for, and they'll pick up the phone and get in touch.
Yeah. Just takes a bit of time for them to sit in the background. I've done it with like my accountants and people like that, where I've said I've been following you for like a year and a half, never said anything, and then suddenly you're like, they're in your head, isn't it? It's all proper branding.
Yeah. It's definitely a long game, especially if you're doing organic social media, rather than paid ads.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it well and consistently, then it's definitely just as kind of like referrals, building relationships.
Yeah.
If you can do that nicely in your organic social media, then that tends to work really well.
I think it's good as well because people are less motivated by price, things like that as well, because they've seen you for so long.
Yeah.
They know you're authentic, they know the message, they know they're probably going to get on with you. They're after what you offer rather than I've got a need and this is the budget or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you, just on budget, how do you find it? People come to you with a budget, or when you price to people, do you say here's a spectrum of what we can do? And do they go for that? I guess it's interesting to hear how that goes.
It's amazing when a client comes to you and says, I've got X amount, what can you do? That's perfect.
Yeah.
But I think as customers, you like to find out, don't you? Well, you don't want to put your marker down too quick, do you? So what can you do for me? So we tend to kind of have a price list of from X amount or between, and then I worked with somebody who's a pricing guru.
Okay.
So we do that kind of 3 option
Yeah.
approach. So it's
And do you want the middle one to be the one selected?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
exactly. Yeah, the most appealing. But
Yeah.
again, psychology. It doesn't always work. But people don't want to be seen as going for the cheapest.
Yeah.
And if the most expensive is totally out of reach,
Mm.
then they'll go for that middle option.
Yeah.
Again, going back to McDonald's, it's what they do, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's like you
100%.
go in, you say what you want, and they're like, oh well, for X amount more, do you want to go large? Or
I
how
know,
about
and I'm a
this?
sucker for, do you want to go large and do you want some chili cheese bites? and all
Every
that.
time.
So
Every
annoying.
time.
I go in there with like, you know, I want to spend about £4 and then it's like £12 or whatever. Yeah, I remember it. I used to work at TPSquared a long time ago. We used to have to put out the 3 Parker pens. I think one wasn't a Parker, and it was like one was the cheap, you know, biro.
Yeah.
It was like £20, and then you had the £100 one, and then the like £700 or whatever pen was in the day, and you were like, oh, just go for the middle option. Isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't want to be stingy.
Yeah. Don't want to be seen to be cheap.
Yeah, but it is definitely good when they have a budget in mind. So do you show some of your, like you say you got a pricing, you've got a benchmark, I guess, for, so they can at least maybe rule themselves out if it's too high.
Yeah, exactly. And because we've got that portfolio of work, we can kind of show, and this is the type of work for this kind of budget. Because what we do, it's time. It's all time related, so we have to kind of quantify that with a budget. So if you are looking for something that, you know, if you want a super creative campaign and you want to be doing everything all guns blazing, well, that's going to be the higher end of the spectrum. But if you want something a bit simpler, then that's fine. Yeah, I
So
think
do you-
expectations.
Yeah, do you have to, because I guess the thing with branding in particular is it's kind of an open-ended thing. It's how much do you want to spend? How, you know, and I guess it's always that thing of who's your customer? And they go, oh, well, anyone. And you go, well, it's not.
No.
So do you have to kind of, not coerce, but refine down what their actual targets are, so it's achievable, you know, like you are really targeting these 2 customers and this is how we can probably do that for this much money, rather than, yeah, I want to target everyone. Well, in that case, then the budget's £1 billion then.
Yeah. No, exactly. Oh, we do, yeah. So we use our experience, as I say, that collaborative approach. We've got lots of different questions that we ask, so we're always asking questions because ultimately it's about solving the business problems. So, you know, if something isn't working in your branding, then it's probably because, you know, it's not landing right with those customers. And like you say, if you're trying to catch everybody, it's just not going to work.
No, it doesn't work.
No, you've got to kind of decide. You've got to fix something
Yeah.
that you're going to sell to, whether that's a specific industry or type of person, or, you know, I'm just going to sell, I just want to push this service or product that I do. It works so much better than just a scattergun approach. Yeah.
I think as well for small businesses, as much as anything else, it's just who do you like working with? Because, you know, as business owners, we end up thinking we're going to maybe set the world alight or do this and that, or we want to do this with our ambitions. And we end up just having to work quite, you know, a stressful job. Yeah, and I think sometimes you just have to look at like what kind of business do I actually enjoy? You know, hopefully it's the more profitable work and the easier work overall, but, you know, it's not always about money, is it?
No, and that's so the background from the company that we used to work for. We had a lot of financial services clients,
Okay.
but then we found that we've really been able to help construction industry, which again, coming from like highly regulated kind of industry to construction, which isn't that sexy, but some of them do sexy stuff. There's a lot of tech out there. There's a lot of innovation out there. So yeah, we've grown that kind of customer sector, but we didn't know that at the start. That's just something that we found, and it worked. And it's like, right, okay, let's market to that sector.
No, definitely. And how have you found it being a business owner? Like, how has it changed from when you took it over back 4 or 5 years ago to now? And what's your next 4 or 5 years planned? What are you thinking?
My God, big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very different. I've always been an employee, so then going to be, I found it really, I'm much better at saying it now, business owner, founder, managing director. In the early days, I've always just said team and we, it was never I. So that's something that's definitely changed over the years. But we are thankfully growing. We've added some new clients, had some new client wins recently. So we're recruiting for a junior designer to add to the team. So we've reached out to local education, colleges, universities, and that's something we'd like to keep going, have work placements and really help that younger generation, especially in Wolverhampton. There's a lot of poverty, and kids can't find their way in. You know, some of them can't get out there even to colleges or unis. So we'd love to build that programme to help, you know, the younger generation get into the digital and creative world.
So that's your 5-year goal.
I think so, yeah.
Do you think you'll still be actively involved? Do you want to be sitting on a beach, or you just love doing what you're doing?
I do. I know. I love what I'm doing. Love it. Love getting out, speaking to people. Love the Black Country, Wolverhampton region. There's so many cool things out there. We're doing some great stuff. So just raising that profile as well, I think is brilliant. You know, there's, like I say, there's some cool stuff going on. I think people sometimes tend to put the region down. Yeah. So I think we need to big ourselves
I think it's because
up.
it's got obviously. Well, maybe it's because there's like competition between like Birmingham and Manchester. So there's these kind of big two behemoths in the middle, and then Black Country just gets Black Country Wolverhampton gets stuck on the side as like the edge of Birmingham, even though it's its whole own region, different councils, and is very different. But yeah, and I think I can't remember who I was with the other day, but yeah, this area in particular needs to get better at shouting about what it is, and you know, obviously it was big and famous and industrial from before, but now it's totally different. And there's so many, like you say, with the technical parks and things now, there's like a lot of innovation stuff being done.
There's some cutting edge stuff going on locally.
Yeah.
So I think, like you say, if you look back in history, you know, we were pioneers, innovators, entrepreneurs, you name it. And I think, we need to be bigger and bolder and shout out more.
Definitely. Well, I'm with you on that. We're proudly Samwell now, even though we started in Birmingham, but you know.
Oh, you made the right decision
Yeah,
then.
we moved over.
Came to the good side.
We crossed the M5 and we're now here. Cool, but yeah, thank you very much for all of your nuggets of information.
No problem. Enjoyed it.
I feel like I need to reevaluate all our branding and things now.
No, you do well.
Is it all right?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Oh, and if anybody wants to get in touch with you or find you anywhere, how would they do that?
Yeah, so TPSquared, you can find us on LinkedIn, TPSquared.co.uk website, and drop us a shout.
Any of them?
Yeah, whatever.
Get in touch. Drop us a line.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a telephone?
I do, yeah. Very modern.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, I'll see you on the flip side for episode 15. 14.